For understanding the crash, you worked with other writers. Is that correct?
I worked with Doug Henwood. My initial plan was to work with Doug Henwood because he is sort of the go-to guy on the left for economics. And he did one chapter with me. And he got me a lot of good source. I mean, okay, understanding the crash was a response to the financial crash of both the crash in the value of housings and the way that crashed the banks and the kind of weird forms of credit that led to that crash. And so I needed somebody who had some really good knowledge of economics as a discipline to back me up in that. I had my aunt was a lawyer for a number of homeowners who were in foreclosure in the city of Cleveland. And she took me around to show me the neighborhoods where everything was boarded up and introduced me to people who were losing their homes in foreclosure and to lawyers who were fighting for them. And so I had that anecdotal experience, but I needed a basis in economic theory and, what the hell is, what the hell are all these different types of credit and different types of mortgage and, mortgage-backed security, et cetera, et cetera. So I needed somebody who could explain that to me. And the first person I hit on for that was Doug Henwood, who's the go-to guy on the left for economic theory, and he's a brilliant guy. And he worked on one chapter with me, which I really liked. And we had a literary agent who was shopping it around. And then Doug Henwood's wife got pregnant, and he felt he didn't have time to work on it. He dropped out of it. And so I got Eric Larson, who is a very wonky, serious journalist who's written a number of books and who's written a lot of economics columns. So I thought he would be good at helping sort out that material, and he worked with me on the rest of it. So it was sort of my job to take all these terms from the world of Wall Street and turn them into images that people could understand and very simple explanations of them that anyone could follow. I perhaps erred in the direction of clarity, and people said it feels a bit remedial, but I think that's good, because I think that it shouldn't only be elite people with business degrees and law degrees who understand what Wall Street does, because Wall Street is affecting all of us. So we should all understand what these securities are and how they affected our economy. So I tried to make it as clear as possible. And I think I succeeded in that regard. So, that was a book which may have informed some of the activism that was part of Occupy Wall Street. I don't know, but it was put out a couple years before Occupy Wall Street, and it really dealt with the anatomy of the financial crash.
So understanding the crash is interesting to me, just in the way comics is often compared to other visual media like film and television, and understanding the crash in terms of subject matter overlaps with a movie like The Big Short, which deals with a lot of the same issues. You yourself, I believe you said you were studying film, or you went to school for film for a little bit?
I went to school for film a long time ago. I wouldn't say I'm a filmmaker anyway.
But I think you understand what I'm getting at in terms of the way a filmmaker might approach the subject versus a comics creator. In understanding the crash, these predatory lenders and some of the financial institutions are represented as sharks, as barracudas. Sometimes law enforcement in your comics is represented as pigs, and it's it's a very strong visual shorthand to let the reader know the character of uh, the people being represented.
And I
And
draw those images from the movements I'm working with. Um, there was an organization in Cleveland that when they held protests at banks, they would throw plastic sharks at the bankers. You know, they chose the loan shark as their image. So I said, okay, if that's good enough for the people in foreclosure, it's good enough for me to use as a metaphor. It's a commonly understood image. Um, to refer to police as pigs has been part of protest movements in the United States since the 1960s. And it's an insult, but it's an insult with a tradition. It's an insult that relates to how a lot of people feel. And so my decision to choose that as an image was because it came out of the masses of people and what they wanted to say and how they felt. So, you know, I allowed the populace to have a role in my authorship, that I tried to speak for them and represent how they felt. The use of animals as metaphors for negative human behaviors goes back to the 18th and 19th century, to Francisco Goya, to Thomas Nast. And it's always fun to do because, you know, you get to draw animals, which is in itself a fun thing to do, like examine animal anatomy compared to human anatomy, and come up with these various mutations. That's fun to draw. But I choose my metaphors as things that represent the way people are feeling and what people are saying, and that people will understand immediately. I'm very concerned, particularly in my more political work, with clarity, with understanding, with, you know, everybody should see this and get the message.